Only one missing was you.
Well, I had the two girls, so. You know what I'm saying? The girls and I took them to their dance classes. And we took him. You know,
I get asked if I ever go to the gym. Regular basis. They say, "You work out every month." Go up to the.
Huh? Your landmark.
Do that. I would.
Menorah's not there.
I just thought it was funny when he comes home.
Yes, I listed some.
I'll take a look, but I thought it was there. I didn't know that. Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to lesson number 5 of Advice for Life. Lesson number 5 means that we are heading towards the end. We only have one more class, which is the sad news. But the good news is there's lots of exciting events coming up. Not in July, but other areas we will be having. I'll go through a few of the main ones that are coming up. This coming Thursday is going to be a Jewish Women's Circle challah bake. And if you're coming, make sure to bring along a friend. Actually, speaking to Goldie, she said this is her biggest so far already, biggest attended Women's Circle event. Over 40 people signed up already. So make sure to, again, if you're not signed up, make sure to sign up. If you are signed up, see if you have any friends who would like to come. Saturday night, we will be finishing off our last of our film series. Actually, I think we saved the best for last. This week is a movie called Golda, which is apparently, I've never seen it, but apparently well acclaimed, and many people who have watched it said it's excellent, going through the life of Golda Meir and her experience in the Yom Kippur War. That's going to be Saturday night. First Havdalah at 8 o'clock, followed by the movie. And then we have Purim right around the corner. And for Purim, before Purim, everyone here should have received, and if you have not received, let me know, but everyone here should have received the email with what we've been doing already for the past couple of years, the Shalach Manas project, where people in the community can join the community project of gifting Shalach Manas packages to other people in the community. And it's a beautiful community project. So keep an eye out on that. I'll be sending another email or two about that. And then Purim starts Saturday night, March 23rd, with the Megillah reading over here. And then during the daytime, we will be having our annual big party at Woodmont Country Club. So hope you're able to join for all of those events, many of those events. And again, it's a time of joy, a time of happiness, even with everything that's going on in Israel, which can kind of create a pall over all these different life-to-life ideas. But we are in the month of Adar, and it is our job to really remain joyous, even with the pain in one part of our heart. We also have to remain joyous and keep up the activities, and perhaps even expand the activities, not only despite of what's happening, but perhaps because of what's happening. As we spoke about, our positive energy creates a ripple effect and creates that positive energy from up and high. So with that being said, we are in the middle of Advice for Life. Speaking about advice, yes. We are speaking about advice for the different areas in life based upon the teachings of the Torah, expounded upon based on the teachings and correspondence that the hundreds of thousands of people have with the Lubavitcher Rebbe during his lifetime. People turn to the Rebbe in all different areas. And as we've spoken about throughout the first 4 lessons, and really it's going to continue on this in today's lesson, is there is one overarching theme that really pervades this whole course. And that is the underlying theme of Hashem Echad. There is only one God. And when we say there is only one God, it's not there is only one God and not 2 gods, but everything that happens in this world, in our life, is part of our mission to serve Hashem. Again, this is a revolutionary idea. In other religions, they don't look at life this way. They look at there's a part of my life which I serve God. And then there is the devil part of my life. Then there is the part which is not connected to God, which I have to shun. Chassidus and the Rebbe highlighted the idea to unify, to the idea to make everything in our life as a part of our service to Hashem. And therefore, our work, lesson 1, talking about highlighting how our work is inherently holy, is a part of serving Hashem, the way we work and how we work and when we work. Lesson number 2, our family life. Our family life is not, we go to a show, but then there's the time when we have our family life. No, our family life is also, when we invest in it, that is also part of our service of Hashem. When we're able to connect with others, connect with our loved ones, connect with a good friend, that is part of our service to Hashem. And lesson 3 and 4 was, 2 sides of a coin. Lesson 3 was the physical health. Lesson 4 was emotional health, but also the idea that taking care of our body, taking care of our emotional spirit is all part of the way we serve Hashem. Today, we move on to discuss perhaps one of the toughest topics. And this is a topic that every single person, no matter who they are, no matter where they are, no matter when they are, have to deal with this. And that is, how do we navigate through challenges and adversity in life? And again, this is something which no one is immune to. Everyone going through life at some time or another, and perhaps in a constant basis, deals with adversity, deals with challenges, deals with stressful situations. And again, just speaking for myself, perhaps as a rabbi, this is the question I receive most. I'm dealing with this challenging situation. What does Torah say about this situation? How do I respond to this situation? And, bringing it back to the Rebbe's advice. We've been speaking about how the Rebbe got questions in all areas. Whether it was work, whether it was family life, health. But I would pretty confidently say there's not an area where the Rebbe received as much questions as this area. Adversity. People would write to the Rebbe or speak to the Rebbe in person and say, I'm going through this challenging time. I'm going through this personal issue. How do I respond to this? Thousands and thousands of people went to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe dealt with this. The Rebbe had to deal with this on a daily basis. And we're going to go through, perhaps, again, as we've spoken about, this is a course where there's no one answer fits all. And every situation has its own answer. But one pervading idea that the Rebbe would respond, the Rebbe would give over when people would deal with challenging situations. I like to know, when we speak about the Rebbe giving advice on challenging situations and on people going through tragedy, people going through adversity, it wasn't like the Rebbe was sitting in an ivory tower preaching. The Rebbe in his personal life went through extremely challenging situations. The Rebbe was born in a time where there was persecution. The Rebbe's father was sent to exile for spreading Torah and mitzvahs, and ultimately died there because of his spreading Torah and mitzvahs. The Rebbe's brother and sister-in-law were killed by the Nazis. His other brother died young. As I'm sure you all know, the Rebbe and his wife did not have any biological children. The Rebbe had tremendous challenges, and if you want to call it professional life, dealing with people with their pain and their suffering coming to him was not easy for the Rebbe. I know, again, when people come to me, and there's a lot of suffering, it takes a toll on you. So when the Rebbe was speaking about this, it wasn't just the Rebbe preaching, but the Rebbe in his own challenging situations. But yet the Rebbe had the look at the Rebbe was full of positivity. The Rebbe was upbeat despite it all. And the Rebbe inspired, uplifted others that despite their difficulties and despite perhaps adversity, to be able to take a certain message, and that should be able to, in certain ways, be able to uplift you. So before we start the discussion, there's 2 important, if I want to call them caveats or important introductions to this idea. And the first one is, when we speak about challenges, when we speak about adversity, many times our mind right away goes to the extreme. Why was there a Holocaust? Or you think about the most extreme, perhaps in your own life. Again, it may be the loss of a loved one. It may be, and we start thinking, what's the good in this? How can I understand this? And the truth is, tonight's conversation, we're not going to discuss the extremes. Not because the ideas that we're going to discuss today cannot be used for the extreme situation, but perhaps most people are not yet ready to go there, are not yet ready to start understanding and to be able to take lessons of the most extremely painful situations. Like, for example, I may not be ready to carry a load of 300 pounds, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't try to carry a load of 100 pounds, 150 pounds. And the more I'm able to start carrying the lighter load, perhaps later on in life, through enough training, I can start carrying a little bit heavier loads. So it's not good to, anyone who a trainer will tell you, don't jump to the heaviest load. So too in our situation, just because we may not be able to explain or be able to take out the positive of the most extreme situations, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't start from perhaps the more benign challenges in life and be able to find those challenges in life and adversity in life. I can be able to take out messages. So that's the first idea. The second idea, and this is very important, is that the ideas we'll discuss today is generally meant for oneself. And what I mean by that is, if you hear someone else going through a challenge, and right away you start rationalizing with them, why they're going through this, you come off as uncaring. The first, when it's coming to another person, the first and foremost thing you should do is just be there for them, listen, care for them, show your empathy for them. Now, it doesn't mean there's never a situation and there's never a time where a person you may be able to perhaps after the fact a little bit, when the person is a little bit removed from the situation, to be able to, together with them, if you're a close enough friend, explain, how this may be for the best. However, during the time, the Rebbe gave advice because people turn to the Rebbe as an advisor, as someone looking for advice. But most times when someone is coming to you and giving their pain, the thing what you should be doing is just crying along with them, having a shoulder for them to lean on. And the truth is, even the Rebbe, when people came to him, and this is a common refrain, you read books about people who had encounters with the Rebbe, many times they would say the first thing the Rebbe did was cried along with me. And the Rebbe would read my letter, and I saw tears coming down the Rebbe's face. In other words, it's not just about preaching, because when a person just preaches about someone else's pain, you don't come along as a caring person. So these ideas is mainly meant for oneself. I'm going through a tough situation at this point, and it hurts. And what we're going to say today is not going to necessarily take away the pain, but it may be a way to be able to uplift us, to be able to go through the challenge in a better way, in a more positive way. And this is hopefully when we come, after today, we will have a little bit of that, a little bit of inspiration how to live life in the best way, despite our challenging and stressful situations. Yeah.
Perhaps looking at these experiences as a learning experience, going through these tragic moments and seeing them as a learning experience rather than an experience that is exclusively negative. I'm going through a bunch of things right now myself, and as I look at them, I try to keep in mind the worst is never the worst once it's happened to you, and it suddenly no longer is the worst possible event or experience you could have. And I think that kind of I think that's where we're heading with this thing. I'm not sure, but
okay. So we'll take that idea, but hopefully we'll take it a step further. In other words, if you ask your average self-help book, how do you deal with adversity? How do you deal with challenges? So a common refrain out there is, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. And that's one idea, but we're going to hopefully take it a step further than that. Judaism says, while that there is something to that, we don't want to just remain over there. We want to be able to look at the lemons not as lemons, but as something himself, because then I could think, fine, life gave me lemons, but I'd rather if life gave me, Chardonnay grapes that I could make expensive wine out of. If I'm forced to make lemonade, I'll make lemonade. But hopefully we'll come out with a little bit more than that, be able to look at the positivity of the challenge itself. So let's start off with, in general, when we speak about challenges in life, we can separate it by three different categories, three different types of challenges. One of the challenges is what you may call a situational challenge. I am in a certain situation at this point. A challenge came along my way. How do I deal with this? Something happened in my personal life, and I'm reeling. Something happened. That is one type of challenge. A second type of challenge is perhaps what you would call a social type of challenge. And that means many times in life, we deal with challenging people, whether it's in our family life, whether it's in our work life, whether it's community life, whatever it is, there are challenging people that sometimes you have to deal with, and that could be another challenge. And finally, there is what's the personal challenges, and that is I may have challenges with personal flaws, the way I was born, personal habits, and I have to deal with every single day. And that's another type of challenge. So we'll start off with exercise 5.1, which says this idea. The present lesson will focus on 3 areas of challenge: situational, setback, such as illness, loss of employment, etc. Number 2, social, dealing with difficult people. And 3, personal, internal character and personality flaws. No one can avoid a measure of each of these in life, albeit to varying degrees. Take a minute to identify an example of each of the above types of adversity, which you are personally forced to contend. Again, situational, social, personal, no need to write it down. We're not going to ask anyone. But again, take a moment to think in your life, whether it's in the recent past, perhaps it could be a little bit further down, and not necessarily we're talking about world tragedies here, but it could be a little bit more benign type of challenges. But again, these challenges that we have. So the general theme, which this is going to be the overarching theme of this class. And when the Rebbe looked at a challenge, the Rebbe looked at it as follows. In Hebrew, the word for why, everyone knows what the word for why is? Madua or lama. Very good. Lama is why. Many times in life, we have a challenge comes my way. The first question intuitively us as human beings say is lama. Why is this happening to me? Why did this happen? It's not fear this is happening to me. Why was I put in this situation? The Rebbe would take the lama and keep the same exact words, the same exact letters, lamed, mem, hey, but change around the vowels a little bit. Instead of lama, which means why, it's lima. For what purpose? Again, think of that. A challenge comes to me. One way of looking at it is, why is this happening to me? Doesn't seem to be fear. God, why are you doing this to me? Or the second way is lima. For what purpose is this challenge happening? In other words, what can I take out of this challenge? I may not understand why it's happening. I may never understand why it's happening. But what I could do is I could think about what, despite the challenge, and despite I may not be happy with it, what can be a positive outcome? Lima, why did this happen to me? What is a positive thing that I could take out of this outcome? And this is going to be an overarching theme. Because again, in life, we're going to speak about sometimes in situations we're able to see the lama, the why this happened. But many times in life, we can't see that. Many times something happened, I even look back and I don't see the positive. Even if we have faith in Hashem that everything's for the positive, but I don't see it. But what we should be able to do is say, even if I can't see the positive, what can I do in this situation? What is some positive I could create from this situation? So with that being said, I'd like to start off with a lesson video, which is actually going to be split into 2 different parts. And actually, this story, when I said the story, I think it was lesson 2, perhaps. I didn't know that they would be discussing lesson 5. And this is a story. Again, I did mention it previously in this course. Speaking about a challenge, and again, it's more of a benign challenge. We're not talking about a big illness or something. A more of a benign adversity challenge that some woman who were going to a Chabad convention dealt with. And take a look at the following video.
The Chabad convention in Detroit, Michigan. Let's say 20 ladies went to figure out how many children to bring them home. Oh, Hashem, oh my God. It was in February 1979, and Monday morning, the women, took off to the airport because they were planning to travel home.
In Brooklyn, the shadow of Grand Army Plaza, some parts of Eastern Parkway are plowed out. And as you can see here, other parts of the parkway are not at all plowed. These cars stuck and good.
They were starting to get home. There was a terrible snowstorm. So all the ladies are sitting at the airport in Detroit, no planes.
To give you an idea how bad it is and how long it may take for New York City to dig itself out of all of this snow, that tow truck is attached to this city's snowplow.
Marilyn Lopez, the head of the Chabad out-of-town conventions at the time. Now her daughter, Mrs. Feldman, took over. She went to the telephone and she called New York. We have to get home, and here's the snowstorm, and they began panicking, and they asked my mother to call up 770 and ask the Rebbe for a bracha. They should be able to travel home.
Okay, we're leaving you in suspense here. So this was, again, you have women, a bunch of little kids running at home with their father, and they're stuck in Detroit. Now, before going on, I think anyone who is scheduling a convention in Detroit in February should be fired. Not the best time to be scheduling a convention. But so here we have this situation, and they called to the Rebbe, and again, because the Rebbe was really the one that was in charge of the convention was under his leadership. They're stuck. They're stuck in an airport in Detroit. So using this idea, this concept of turning the lama, why did this happen? To lama, for what purpose is this happening to me right now? What can I make out of this situation? What positivity can I cause in the situation? It doesn't take a great deal of imagination to be able to imagine the Rebbe's response to them. Let's take a look at, we're going to skip the first couple texts. Perhaps we'll get back to it if we have time. We're going to go to text number 3. And this was, again, the Rebbe's response to them, to these women who wrote into the Rebbe, who called the Rebbe and asked the following question: we're stuck. What should we do? Our families are waiting for us at home. Seems like a bunch of wasted time. And the Rebbe responds, your response is extremely surprising. I have spoken at length and repeated over and over the Baal Shem Tov's teaching that we should view everything we experience as a guide to our personal service of God. In fact, you have certainly included this very insight in your own speeches. Despite that, when you personally experience something unplanned, you disregard the plainly obvious divine intention for which God orchestrated that event, and you search for utterly bizarre alternative interpretations, such as your concern that God did this to cause you distress, heaven forbid, by thwarting your ability to return home, and so on. You have considered everything but the obvious. That is, there is an opportunity to further disseminate knowledge of the Torah and its mitzvos to a greater extent than you already accomplished via the convention. God therefore decided to cause snow to fall from the sky in order to grant you the merit to complete that goal, namely to spread Judaism in an unusually abundant and powerful way, like the unusually plentiful and vigorous snowfall in the city at the airport via local newspapers and so on. The Rebbe speaks to them a little bit sharply. The Rebbe says, you just came from a convention, and over there, you uplifted yourself, you uplifted others, speaking about everything is divine providence, everything that happened, God, everything is meant to be. And suddenly you're in a situation where you're stuck, and right away you call me in a panic. Use your basic, this is basic Hasidic ideas. Use those ideas and use it out for the good. And this is what the Rebbe responded to them. And this is what they did. Let's take a look at the next part of the story.
These are the words of the Rebbe. Monday, Hafbei Shvat. The Baal Shem Tov's teaching that every occurrence contains a directive in serving Hashem is a topic that has been spoken of and discussed at length innumerable times. I am sure that you too have given speeches on this topic. Yet now, when an incident has happened to you, you seek to attach the most distorted possible interpretation. That is absolutely amazing. The simple and obvious reason for the delay is this. It is possible to disseminate Torah and mitzvot to a far greater degree than was accomplished during the convention. You are therefore being granted the merit through the snow which descends from heaven of completing the above task with an extraordinary abundance and intensity of Judaism, similar to the extraordinary abundance of the snowfall. The efforts in completing the convention task of disseminating Torah and mitzvot should be extended to the city, the airport, publicity in the newspapers, etc. Women ran around the airport, giving out Shabbos candles. Some women went off to the university campus. Some of them set up different booths in shopping malls. Also, Shabbos candles and talking to the women about all the mitzvahs of the Jewish women. After they reported to the Rebbe of everything they had done, this is what the Rebbe answered. It is a particularly great merit when the Almighty points with a finger and clearly shows one what to do from on high. May all your activities undertaken as a result of this divine indication be highly successful. It is obvious that each and every woman will soon travel and reach home, for she will have completed her mission.
Yeah, over here, and later on, there's an extended video of this, and how one of the ladies say that there are many Jewish women today who are lighting candles till today because of that story. So again, they took the lemma of why am I delayed to the lemma, for what purpose can I utilize this challenge for the positive? And this is when a person is able to live life in this type of way, it reframes the whole way of living. Jonathan Sacks, the famous chief rabbi, Lord Jonathan Sacks of Britain, says the first time he met the Rebbe, and he speaks again, not to go into his whole history now, but his life was really framed, and he becomes a chief rabbi because of the Rebbe. But the first time he meets the Rebbe in a private audience, he was a student at Cambridge University, and he comes asking a bunch of questions. And the Rebbe then turns the tables and start asking him questions, and they're asking me, what are you doing for Jewish life in Cambridge? So he said, I started saying, in the situation I find myself, and he said, the Rebbe interrupted him, which is very uncommon, but the Rebbe interrupted him and said, no one ever finds themselves in a situation. You put yourself in a situation. If you are in a situation, that means you can take control of the situation. And yes, it may be challenging, but if you have a life filled with a paradigm of what can I do in every situation I find myself, then the challenges become less stinging. Because again, I may not understand why this challenge is happening to me, but I'm able to live in a way, what can I do right now in the present situation to bring positivity to myself, to this world around us? That is a way, that is a way to be able to go through a challenge. And they say of a parent who has a 5-year-old son and a 6-year-old son. He takes him to a psychologist and says, my 5-year-old is the biggest pessimist I've ever seen. Everything is the worst. And my 6-year-old is the biggest optimist. Psychologist, I'll take care of it. So he takes the 5-year-old and takes him to a room full of toys, filled to the top. It says, all this is yours. Right away, the 5-year-old starts crying, bursts into tears, says, I'm going to break everything here. I'm going to break within a day. And the psychologist turns to the parent and says, you're right. He's the biggest pessimist I've ever met. And then takes the 6-year-old to a room filled up high with manure. And he turns to the 6-year-old and says, all this is yours. The 6-year-old jumps up in joy and plows into the manure. The psychologist says, what are you doing? The 6-year-old said, there's so much manure here, there must be a pony somewhere. In life, if you see manure, do you look at the manure, or can I find the pony? Can I find the positivity in this situation? Can I find, and perhaps this is the reason why this happened in the first place. Again, we're not here to be arbiters of why things happen and why people go through suffering. But Torah tells us everything happens for a reason. Everything is ultimately good. And we may not be able to see the good. But if we're able to take what for us is perceived as negativity and say, what can I do over here? What is my mission over here? That is transforming that challenge into positivity. And again, it's a lot more than making lemonade out of lemons. Lemonade out of lemons means I have a pretty bad situation and let me make some lemonade. Over here, it's let me take what looks challenging, but recognize the beauty within it. Recognize that I'm stuck in the airport because I have a mission to be able to meet other people and share with them a good word. Give them Shabbat candles. There's another story. I want to share another story with you. And that is the year 1977. Simchas Torah. Simchas Torah 1977. I'll give you a brief scene of how it looked in Crown Heights in 770. 770 is Lubavitch headquarters. This is where the Rebbe Shul was. And throughout the year, it was pretty full, especially during the holidays. But there was never a time in the year that it was as packed as Simchas Torah. People came from around the world to celebrate Simchas Torah with the Rebbe. It was a very special occasion, the way the Rebbe would dance with the Torah. And it was packed. It was packed to the gills. They say that literally there was like a cloud from the humidity of people just crammed together in that room. They had to have special trucks that would come to just pump air, besides the regular AC, pump air into the room. 1977 started off like every other year, but in the middle of the hakafos, the dancing, suddenly there was something he never did before. Never sat down, and that was a warning sign. Never sat down during hakafos, and people noticed the Rebbe's face became white. Well, later was found out the Rebbe had a terrible heart attack during the hakafos, while in front of the thousands of Hasidim. So right away, the Hasidim knew something was wrong. They all run out of the building, smash the windows to let in air. The Rebbe finishes hakafos, and then goes up to his room. And within a couple hours, they make a makeshift hospital in the Rebbe's room, triage and with all the machines and all they were able to get in touch with the best doctors. Actually, if you remember, a couple of lessons ago, we had a Dr. Ira Weiss. He spoke about the Rebbe having his tea with his wife. They flew him down from Chicago on Simchas Torah in order to take care of the Rebbe. And that's when he became the Rebbe's doctor. Now, you can imagine that the mood of the Hasidim during that Simchas Torah was not that great. Who wants to dance when the Rebbe they all came to see just suffered a heart attack? They didn't know if the Rebbe was going to live. It was a very hard time. Now, I actually think similar to this year's Simchas Torah. This year's Simchas Torah, people come to shul and we're sure if we should dance. Everyone heard what happened in Israel. Actually, in our personal community, we just that day. Janet passed away. Many people here were close with Janet. It was a very hard time. Is it appropriate to dance? And the mood was obviously very somber during that time. So the next day at Simchas Torah, the Rebbe sent down a message through his secretary, Rabbi Groner, that Rabbi Yoel Kahn, who was the chief disseminator of the Rebbe's words, should skim over the following message. And the Rebbe said as follows: that last night, one of the doctors approached the Rebbe to draw some blood from the Rebbe for some testing. And the Rebbe asked the doctor a question. What is it that caused the blood to flow? Is it the prick of the needle? Or is it the vacuum in the syringe which is causing the blood to be pulled out? So the doctor responded that the prick of the needle is what allows the blood to go out. But it's the vacuum that causes the vacuum in the syringe that causes the blood to leave the body, causes the blood to flow. And the Rebbe's response said as follows: there was someone who recently came over to me and said, complaining that I feel empty, I feel void. And I told him that sometimes emptiness, the vacuum, is able to suction in much more. Because of a certain emptiness, because of a certain challenge, that can allow the blood to flow a little bit. What was the message Rebbe was saying? You guys feel I'm not there, and you guys are sad, but to the contrary. Because of the vacuum, I'm not there. That should cause you to be even more joyous. And that's why the Rebbe commanded them, I want you to be even more joyous in a regular year. And that's why in all Chabad houses around the world this past October 7th, Simchas Torah, I'm sure every Chabad rabbi said the same message. I know I said this, and speaking to my colleagues, everyone said the same message. While we may want to cry, but our job today is there's a vacuum. There is something which is the negativity. We have to overpower that negativity by dancing, by being more positive. So again, taking the negative, the lama. Why do it happen October 7th happen? We don't know. We're human beings. How can we understand suffering? Why did the Rebbe have that heart attack then? The Chassidim couldn't know. But should the response be? The lama, what can I do now? What can my response be right now? And when a person is able to live that way, again, we have over here the vacuum of a syringe draws out the blood. The Rebbe's asked that Simchas Torah would draw forth more intense joy. And this was the message when a person is dealing with a challenging situation. And again, maybe don't think of the most extreme challenging situation, because in those extreme situations, it may be hard to think of the lama. For what purpose? But in most situations, a person goes through life, whether it's benign, whether it's, going through a flat tire at a certain time, whether it's a certain negativity that's happening in your life at that time. Try to always think, what is the purpose I can do in this situation? Which brings us to the next story. You may have heard the story before. It's a very powerful story. And take a look.
There was a woman in Brooklyn, college teacher, angry black woman, Shirley Chisholm. She got elected to the United States Congress in the mid-60s. She was a fiery speaker. She was considered a black power advocate. Whites were scared silly of her. And she was the first black woman ever elected to the United States Congress, and she was a bomb thrower. So the white Southern racists and the U.S. House of Representatives in the South said, we'll teach this blank a lesson. And they assigned her to the Agricultural Committee of the House of Representatives. It was a great, it was a great joke. So remember the New York Times front page article said, "Does a tree grow in Brooklyn?" Question mark. And said, the chairman, they appointed Shirley Chisholm, not the housing which she requested, not to a committee on poverty, but the agriculture committee. She retired from the House. I was there when she told the common story. She said she was very upset. I didn't know what to do. She had a phone call. The Dodger I wants to see. Of course, she's a congresswoman from Crown Heights. She has a very close relationship with people in the Crown Heights community. And she came to see her. As he told the story, she had seen him once before when he had refused to divorce her. And then she came to see him the second time and sat down and said, "I know you're very upset." She said, "I am upset. I'm insulted. What should I do?" And he said, "What lesson God's given? This country has so much surplus food, and there's so many hungry people. And you can use this gift that God's given you to feed hungry people. Find a creative way to do it." And so the first day she came to Washington, she met a young congressman now and Speaker Robert Dole in Kansas. And they started talking. He said, our farmers will take the food, we don't know what to do with it. She said, "1 second, the rabbi." And going forward and food stamps. Largely expanded, it was a tiny pilot program before the whole existing food stamps program. Kind of agriculture committee of the United States Congress, and Shirley said, in front of everyone there in Washington, she said, "I owe this to the rabbi who's an optimist, called the optimist, and called me with God, but it would make this a challenge to get from God." She's getting 4 children, babies, I already said to her, 4 babies of milk, the 4 children in program food. She goes to that rabbi in Crown Heights,
See, a tremendous story. Again, this lady who was just elected to and they're making a joke out of her, putting this challenge. What did she do? She's living in New York, and they're putting her on the agriculture committee. And the Rebbe said, use this challenge out, and what can you make of this situation? And because of that, though, again, in her words, if there's a poor baby that needed some food, thank the rabbi. Thank the rabbi that caused me to think, let me use this challenge for opportunity. This is taking the lama and transforming it into a lama. For what reason?
It seems easy. It seems like whatever ask me their opinion, but I'm sure it's easiest.
It's far from easy to live a life this type of way is to be able to transform a challenges. And generally, when a person's in a challenge, it's very hard for them to think objectively, to remove themselves from the muck and be like, you're down, why is this happening to me? To be able to lift yourself. And that's really what the Rebbe was there for, to lift people up and say, take a look, take a bird's eye view. And what can I now use your creativity, as the Rebbe said, and try to find them a solution here. Someone's stuck in the airport. Are they thinking right now of what's the opportunity? They're thinking, why did this happen to me? Why was there a snowstorm? But if we're able to life, and again, as everything in Torah mitzvahs, it's not a all or nothing, it's a life journey. We're able to slowly train ourselves, it becomes a little bit easier and easier. Yeah.
Uncle, rest in peace, used to have a sign on his refrigerator that said the following: put brain in motion before moving mouth. And that you could apply that to this particular circumstance. And as the Rav said, this is not an easy aha moment type of affair. This requires, I think, a lot of effort, a lot of memory, a lot of strength to be able to step outside of the circumstances that immediately confront you and take a step back to see, as my father said, take a step back and look at the whole picture. In this case, the Lama. One way to do it is when you feel a knee-jerk, or when you recognize a knee-jerk reaction about to occur, count to 10.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's always good advice. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I had a friend of mine who was a Golden Gloves boxer. And he said, the first thing I ever learned about boxing, the first thing that my coach told me, you lose your head, you lose the fight.
Right.
Done.
Yep. So this is this idea we find, the Talmud tells us, text 4a. Rabbi Yochanan taught, why are the Jewish people compared to an olive? To inform us that just as an olive provides its oil only through being pressed and crushed, so does the Jewish nation return to the good path only through the suffering they experience. And as text 4b continues, the process of extracting olive oil is described in the Torah as crushed for the luminary, specifically in the era of exile, when everyone is broken and crushed. Are we able to reach our inner luminary? Again, if you were to ask the olive, do you want to be crushed? Probably the olive would say no. And probably even if the olive would know it gets the oil, it still wouldn't want to be crushed. But no one asks the olive. We crush it. If someone says, do you want to go through the challenge? Most people will say no. And many people will say no, even if even if you'll tell them there'll be a benefit that comes out of it. But no one asks us. We go through life and challenges happen. But if we recognize that by being crushed, by the challenges that happen in life, we're able to give out our light. We're able to give something. Often that is a very powerful way of living through life. This is the idea of the hidden power. Adverse experiences unlock access to inner strength we might not have known about. So the first idea, we speak about situational. The Rebbe teaches to look for the hidden opportunity in challenging situations. Again, this is not something which is not necessarily, sometimes in life we'll be able to recognize the good. A part that the first two texts, which I didn't do because I want to be able to have enough time, is sometimes in life there's what's called the Gamzu L'Tova moment. Gamzu L'Tova means this is also for the good. Sometimes in life, you're going through a challenging situation, and after a little while, maybe during the event, I see why this happened to me. Sometimes you're able to see it. I often say the story of me and Goldie. When we were, after we got married, a year was going by, I was teaching, but we were looking to open a Chabad center. We were looking to this is what I grew up with, and although Goldie grew up in Karnai South with this is what she wanted to dedicate her life to. And we're looking at different options. And there was one option that seemed very promising. It was in Michigan, where I come from, but not in my parents' shul. This was half hour away. There was a shul that was looking to hire someone. And we went down there with good hopes, and we were there for a weekend. And it was a very good weekend, and we really wanted this position. And a couple months later, we didn't get the position, and it was very crushing for us at that point. It was very, we put a lot of hopes in there, and literally a couple of days after we got that rejection, Tamarack came up. We found out about a small city, we never heard of it, Tamarack, and we'll look into it. And we came down here, and I guess the rest is history. But besides for being here and being so happy over here, for reasons I'm not going to get to right now, it was definitely the good choice not to go down there. The people who went down there is a very difficult situation and dealing with very difficult people. But over there, in the moment, there was that rejection. There was that, feeling crushed. But later on, we were able to say the Gam Zulatova. This was also for the good. We were able to recognize it. Not always in life will we see the Gam Zulatova. Even if we believe it, someone who has faith in God, we recognize every moment is for the good. Sometimes we'll be able to see it. Sometimes we won't be able to see it. But what we're saying over here is even if we can't necessarily see the good, what we should train ourselves is to take that challenge, that perceived negative, and say, what's an opportunity? What is an inner strength I can take from this challenge and to use it for the positive, use it for the good? And this is the first idea. The first idea of in a situational challenge. Let's move on to the next area of challenges. And that is when dealing with people. Everyone knows there's challenging people in this world, and everyone has bumped into people who are challenging. And everyone deals with it differently. And for some people, the idea, even philosophically and theologically, the idea of challenging people is harder than challenging situations. Because challenging situations, I can only say, this is from God. God put this here. But a challenging person, they had free choice. They decide to be a jerk. So why am I dealing with this? And some people, again, I could, some people could almost, I could deal with a challenging situation, with a challenging person. How do I get through this? And for many people, it can be very hard. People struggle all their life, and sometimes it's a close family member, sometimes it's a close coworker. And how do you deal with a challenging person? So, but again, the way Chassidus tells us, everything in life that happens is for a reason. And again, taking the lama, taking the why, and changing it over to the lama for what purpose? So again, I'm dealing with someone challenging. How can I use this out for something that is positive? So I'd like to show you a lesson video over here. We're going to have two different stories, short stories. But again, we have this idea where the Rebbe you'll see two different encounters. People come to the Rebbe with challenging situation. The first one was an Israeli political leader who founded a city of Ariel, who had a close connection with a very close connection with the Rebbe. The second one was Rabbi Yisrael Meir Lau, who was at that point the chief rabbi of Tel Aviv. At a certain point, he becomes the chief rabbi of Israel. At this point, he's still before that. And he comes to the Rebbe and says, I just built a mikvah, a very good deed. And I'm dealing with challenging people who are objecting to the way I built it and are just giving me a very hard time. And the Rebbe responded to both of them differently, but again, the same general theme. Take a look.
ואחרון חביב, אם מותר לי לבקש בשביל עצמי פעם משהו. יש הרבה אנשים שרוצים אותי. בגלל זה שאני מצליח לעשות את כל הדברים האלה. ועושים לי כל מיני בעיות. בנושא של חקירות, במשטרות, איך אני מביא כסף מאמריקה, ואיך אני עושה כל הדברים. הייתי מבקש שהרב ייתן לי ברכה, שכל הדברים האלה שעושים נגדי, לא יעלה בידי אף אחד, ושאני אצא מכל הדברים האלה חבל וכו'. להיות בבית או במחשבת או בהתאפות, זהו יהיה אפשר, כי הכל דבר חרתי ויוצא איתי ופתחית בכל זאת לאחר כדיון ישראל. מה שאתה לא יכול לעשות, שתגידי את הכל להדליק, ועד כן מילים הייתי יותר, את הפשוטה יותר, שתן של יהודים, שלא נראה לי שמישהו להתנדב, אבל להתקרב יותר לעשות דווקא כשלב. Witam, że są adykty, świetny Chabad i Tel Awiw, to zarówno hipnotyzm, na świecie, ale nie a dzisiaj czyli wiele za to invece stavo vedendo ciascare come si anche lì sulla chiamata che non è da vedere la nostra pagina c'è che viene lì non capisce che viene a fare da tutto non sta che infatti il dato di parlare di non c'è finisce perché di avere continue non sta fino a che la tua
We see in both of those ideas, both of those videos, they're ever giving a common theme. Yes, you're dealing with a challenging situation. And yes, as ever said, that person has free choice. So it's not up to you for that person to be less challenging. Sometimes we think, let me change that person. And well, sometimes that may be a method. Sometimes you do have the ability. Many times we don't. And many times we have to recognize that people have their own free choice. And sometimes difficult people are going to remain difficult people until maybe they get their own help, if they're looking for help. But what's up for us is to be able to take adversarial situation from another person and be able to not back down, but be able to strengthen our efforts in that area, in a certain area. There was a story. Rabbi Shmuel Lu was the first Chabad rabbi to move down to England. And at a certain point, he was there was a prominent British Jewish leader who was expressing, opposition to one of the Rebbe's campaigns. So Rabbi Lu was considering putting together a delegation to try to meet this person, to try to convince him otherwise. We wrote about this to the Rebbe. The Rebbe said as follows: there are 613 mitzvos in the Torah. If this person will not work with us on this particular mitzvah, let him work with us with the other 612. In other words, yes, you're dealing with a complicated person, but instead of writing that person off, instead of letting it get to you and eat away at you, see what you can work with that person. See what areas you can work with that person, and work with them, work them in that area. And this is, when a person is able to, again, over there, taking the lama, why do I have this challenging person? And the lama, what can I accomplish with that person? What can I do that despite the opposition of this person, despite what this person is making me deal with, how can I further affect myself, that person, the surrounding with goodness? And again, this is the next idea in the Rebbe's arching theme of dealing with challenging situations. When we deal with challenging people, we can focus on the negativity of a challenging person or find the potential for good and accomplish more together. Again, I can focus on the negativity, that's the lama, or I can find the potential, the lama, to accomplish more together. Again, to be able to rise above adversity. If I'm in our social life, the Rebbe teaches to find and connect with the potential in challenging people. Let's move on to the last set of challenges. And this, for many people, is the hardest. Till now, we're discussing both situational challenges and social challenges. So these are all that happen to us in life. It happens to me in life, I bump into a challenging person. I bump into a challenging situation. But both of those things are things that I went into, and now over time, I'm able to move on from that situation. I'm able to move on from that person. But then there are the internal challenges. I was born with a certain flaw. I was just someone who I'm pretty close with, doesn't come to shul regularly, but something will come to events. I was just, we sat down for coffee together. He was telling me that, it very much hurts him that he deals, and he's dealing with it on a constant basis. He feels like he's a failure of a person because he deals with anger issues. He blows up very easily. So you're somewhat, again, this is not situational. This is not a social, but this is something which is an internal flaw, an internal struggle, internal challenge that he deals with. And again, internal challenges can be anywhere from anger, from depression, from anxiety, from different bad habits that a person has. how do I fight myself? So, how am I able to lift myself up over my own personal challenges? And again, using the same idea, the Rebbe took a look at our personal challenges and using this idea of the lama. For what purpose do you have that personal challenge? Why were you born? Why do you think Hashem caused you to be born with that challenge? There must be a reason. There must be a lama. Lama? Why? I don't know. You'll never know. A person may never know. There's certain people, and we're going to finish off today's class with a very powerful video of people who had handicaps, people who were injured. And why did that happen? It's not for us as human beings to rationalize someone else's suffering. Why certain people are born, whether it's again physical issues, mental health issues, or different character flaws. The lama, it's not for us, but the lama, for what reason, is something we can learn out from. So let's take it's difficult to fight against our own flaws and shortcomings, but the Rebbe shed new light on negative character traits. I want to take a look at the following story. It's a little bit of a fascinating, bizarre story, if you may, from the Talmud. And let's take a look at the story, and then we'll see how this can have a way of bearing on what we're discussing today. Text number 6. Abaye overheard a man suggest to a woman, "Let's get up early in the morning and travel together." When she agreed, Abaye told himself, "I better follow them to prevent them from doing something forbidden together." He shadowed them for a distance of 3 parsa, approximately 12 miles. He trudged through a reed-filled marsh while he walked along the road beside it. However, they did not use isolation and the early hours as an opportunity to sin together. As they parted ways, Abaye heard them commenting. The road was quite a run, but the company was certainly fun. Abaye then told himself, "If I were that man, I wouldn't have managed to restrain myself from sitting with her." As he stood there in thought, slouched against the doorpost, and feeling distressed, a certain elder approached him and said, "A greater person has a greater inclination to sin." What's the story about? So again, you have Abaye seeing 2 people, and perhaps from their conversation, he figured there's a chance that they may sin, and perhaps let me see if I could stop it. And also in halacha, there's idea that a man and a woman should not be secluded together in one area, and if it's a secluded area, so therefore he felt, I'm going to, even just by being alongside them, they're not going to be sinning. They're not going to be doing the prohibition of yichud. And again, Abaye is a great sage, and Abaye sees them, and at the end, they just part ways in they're speaking and acting in a very appropriate way. Abaye is starting to feel bad. This is a person who probably wasn't as great as Abaye, wasn't as great of a Torah knowledge. And Abaye felt, if I was in the situation, I'm not sure if I would have been able to come out unscathed. I'm not sure if I would have been able to avoid myself from doing something inappropriate. So until what happens? Until this elder reframed the whole story by giving over a message. And that is, if you have an internal flaw, again, Abaye looked at himself as, I have an internal flaw. That is a message. The lema is that you can accomplish much more in life. You have an internal flaw and you look at it as a fault, reframe it and recognize it as, I'm able to accomplish much more. Now, the classic way of understanding this idea is that because you're a greater person, that's why you have a greater evil inclination, a greater Yetzer Hara. But the way the Rebbe looks at it is the other way around. Because you have a greater flaw, because you have a greater tendency to sin or a greater inner flaw, that gives you the ability to accomplish much more. You're able to take that personal failure, if you want to call it, and utilize it to a certain way that a person who didn't have that inner flaw would not be able to use it. The classic analysis is a greater person has a greater Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Hara means evil inclination. The Rebbe's analysis is a greater Yetzer Hara spurs one to be a greater person, and this is the idea. This is the idea of this is the idea when we may struggle with our feelings. And that again, this is not to say what's happening is I want this to happen. No one's saying a person wants to be born with certain challenges, but a person is able to recognize that when I am able to recognize that with my inner flaws, that is able to propel me much further. That is something which can be very validating. The Rebbe gave an example. The Rebbe gave the following example. Yeah. It could be very validating to a person. Validating, and it could be very comforting to a person. The Rebbe spoke about they gave the following idea. Back in when there was in the Cold War, back when there was the space race, and the first rocket went to the moon. So the Rebbe said the following metaphor: in order to get to the moon, the rocket needed to be filled with a lot of fuel. And I think it was close to 90% of the rocket was filled with fuel. Now, again, I don't claim to be to know the science behind it, but apparently the science says that the fuel which is weighing down the rocket, that's actually what causes it to be propelled forward. Without the fuel, it would never be able to leave the atmosphere and go to outer space, so go to the moon. That which is weighing it down is what causes it to be able to go in a much greater speed to be able to leave. And the Rebbe used this metaphor as the idea that, in life, we have sometimes things that weigh us down. We have the oil. We have things that are pulling us down. But if you want to be able to launch, if you want to be that rocket, if you want to be able to go to a place, don't look at it. Many times again in life, again, the classic way of looking at it is I could go somewhere despite my challenges. The way we're looking at it now is that the challenges is what allows the person to get to that place they would not be able to get otherwise. Abayi's challenge, his own internal flaw, feeling they would not be able to withhold himself, is what caused him to become Abayi, one of the greatest Jewish sages. Because of that flaw, that allowed him to be able to get to a certain place. And that is a way to look at our own internal flaws. The tremendous amount of fuel allows the rocket to propel into space. Let's take a look at text number 8. No human being. Again, this was someone who corresponded to the Rebbe about a certain challenge they had. Why did they have it? And the Rebbe responds, no human being can answer such questions, which only Hashem, the Creator, can answer. One observation that can be suggested in relation to the question, why me, is that if an individual experiences a particular difficult or trying situation, it may be assumed that God has given him extraordinary powers to overcome the extraordinary difficulty. The individual concerned is probably unaware of his real inner strength. The trial may therefore be designed for the sole purpose of bringing out in the individual his hidden strength, which after overcoming his problem can be added henceforth to the arsenal of his revealed capacities in order to utilize both for infinitely greater achievements for the benefit of himself and others. So we're able to recognize that sometimes our inner challenges, while we may not ask for them, but that allows us to get to a certain place. That allows me to be my true me only because I have that baggage. Again, we look at baggage as a negative, but take a look at the baggage as fuel. The fuel that weighs down the rocket, but also is the only thing that allows that rocket to be able to launch. Internal struggles, internal issues is what allows a person to be able to reach who they really could be. We'll take a look at the next video. We have again 2 different stories presented in the following video. Oh, okay.
I came to Mount Heights to try out Yiddishkeit, to go into yeshiva. I wanted to be religious. I ended up staying there for 4 years, or a little more. In those years, I requested from Rebbe Tzipun wasn't happy with some of the things, the way I behaved in the past. Okay. You understand? Use it as a lever against itself. For example, if you are such an egoist, if you see someone else learning better than you, say to yourself, I can certainly learn better than that. And then go and do it. And when the Yetzer Hara sees what it's being used for, they'll have argument. That's the end of the yeshivas.
In der Kultur erzählt, in der Verstande, an jeder Linie, was zu sich in der Lebenswelt, was selber der Leben Menschen daran die versicherte Sache im Beruf muss sein, behalten dem, muss mehr nicht wie Tod an den Menschen, der soll im Beruf nicht denen sein. Ich sage viele, wenn der David behauptet, ist sichere Sache, wird dann
He was saying to me, you have to realize that God is good, and everything that you experience in this world, in your life, even your own inner negative character traits or whatever, it's all from God, and all is nothing more than an opportunity.
Wenn sieht das Lernen toll will, soll suchen, geduldig, sicher finden, wie sie nach Leben zu leben. Also damit werden wichtig, als der Team ist so echt in der Linie.
While I was studying in Montreal, I was having a great difficulty with my study partner with Azusa. We would be in order to each other. We would study the Talmud, and whatever he would say, I would say different thing. I would say he would say different thing. And I went to that, but that was something wrong with me, that just arguing with her all the time. And I told him that I need some guidance as to how to handle this. But I just said it would appear that one of your latent gifts is pilpul, the ability of analyzing or arguing and coming to a certain conclusion, not simply straightforward. That is that I should spend time in working as pilpul.
Ist sichere Sache, bevor Dinge bei Ihnen ist dort Verloschenheit durch, was Gott hier geschaut hat. Als ihm rechnet, dass Ruhig Kern, inwärtig am Werk nicht sind. Oder ein Gefinden nicht, dass Ruhig Kern, rechnet, Ruhig Kern, in das Wiederlose, was nicht gesucht, wo man darf suchen oder wie man darf suchen.
In a particular situation, which to me feels quite destructive and quite negative, and there was some tremendous power, tremendous opportunity, tremendous potential in terms of developing a certain level of study.
Let's to recognize this is very counterintuitive. Going over to most religious leaders and tell them I have a problem with my ego. So most people will tell you work on getting rid of your ego. Work on doing you're someone who likes to argue. Let's work on ways for you to stop arguing, for you to become less combative. The Rebbe's approach was, while that is a legitimate approach, and sometimes that is the approach, but the Rebbe was saying sometimes your inner flaw itself can be used for benefit. Use out your ego for good, for you to, let me try to learn the best so I can be the best. Let's learn out the combative style to increase Torah knowledge. Because recognizing that even our inner flaws themselves can be used out. Everything God gives us can be used out for the positive. Again, the lema over here. Why did God give me that negative trait? I don't know. I didn't create myself. God created. That's God's business. But what I could do is, for what purpose can I take that negative trait and use it to be able to benefit myself, to benefit society? And this is something which is a whole new way of looking at things. So we go on to internal. The Rebbe teaches us to harness our flaws for greater positive achievements. I want to finish off before I show a very powerful video. I want to finish off that till now we're speaking about the idea of in an individual. In my own personal life, I have personal challenges, I have situational challenges, I have social challenges. But the truth is, this method of looking at this world can also be used for what happens in the world in general, to the Jewish people. We take a look at what happens. October 7th. How could such a thing happen? The Jewish people at this point are facing tremendous challenges as a nation. People being killed every single day, that anti-Semitism. And if you to ask a person, why did such a thing happen? It would be very foolish for someone to answer that, because how can I look in a face and say, this is why 1,200 people were killed? This is why people are being terrorized. That's not up to me. But what we could do is the lema. For what purpose? What is something I can take what happened October 7th and utilize it? I heard at the beginning, before the class, a conversation. Should we be hiding our Judaism? Should we not be hiding our Judaism? The lema should be no, to the contrary. Let me strengthen my Judaism. Let me be able to take this and use that for the positive. My brother today, my brother who's a Chabad rabbi in Michigan, just today he led a solidarity trip to with people in his community and other communities to Israel. And I saw that he posted one of the first stops, they visit the hospital, but one of the first stops was there was a huge storage what's the word I'm looking for? Storage facility. And over there you have like a block long and just thousands of boxes. What was the story over here? You had a 17-year-old boy whose best friend was killed in the Nova massacre. And a couple of days after his friend was buried, he's thinking, what could I do for my friend, my best friend, a 17-year-old boy? And he said, let me start helping out people. And he started a collection, again, this 17-year-old boy. And it somehow grew and grew and grew. And as of today, they've already given out over $75 million worth of supplies all over Israel, to soldiers, to communities, to people in the hospital. And what do you have over here? We have a 17-year-old boy who took a lama, who took a why. Why did this happen? Why was I part of it? He was part of the Nova Festival. He was saved. My friend, why did this happen? What's the answer? We can't know. Why? How could a 17-year-old boy in the prime of his life be cut down? The lama, we don't know. But the lema, what he took, was so powerful. What can I do right now? What can I do to keep my friend's memory alive? And he took it and he created something so huge, so magnificent. And we see this going on throughout the whole Israel. People are getting up suddenly and they're becoming a proud Jew. And as I mentioned a few times, the faith has gone up, the Torah mitzvahs, people helping one another, strangers. This is taking the lama and transforming it to the lema. And again, you don't have to be in Israel. Here in America, we could take this. Well, how can I strengthen my Judaism? They wanted to quash Judaism. How can I strengthen my Judaism? And this has happened throughout our history. People point to the Holocaust. No, the Holocaust happens. Why does it happen? We can't know the answer. But what happened? What was the lema? Many people will point to the creation of the land of Israel. The fact that a couple years later, we have a place where Jewish people can live, a place, a holy place, to be able to take in one's own personal life or in our communal life and be able to transform our challenges of reasons of opportunity, of means of being able to, what can I take this? And again, generally, it's not something I ask for. And if I would be able to take it, I would. But many times we don't have that choice. And to be able to say, what is this? What is the message? What is my mission and purpose in this idea? I'd like to finish off. And again, this is very connected to the time we're in right now, because unfortunately, since October 7th, you have many people that were injured. Many people are injured and lost limbs and became permanently crippled. And you had this, the this idea back after the Yom Kippur War, where you had many people that were permanently disabled, and they came to the Rebbe for a meeting. They came to the Lubavitch Rebbe for a meeting, a special meeting, and this was a very powerful meeting, as you'll see from this video.
אחרי ההגשה, נחשפתי, והשיקום הממשי שלנו היה דרך הספורט. השתתפנו כשחקני כדורעף בנבחרת הנכים של ארגון נכי צה"ל.
ב-1976 התקיימה האולימפיאדה בטורונטו בקנדה, והייתי מהמייסדים והמובילים של הארגון הזה לשיקום נכי המלחמה. וחשבתי שלא יכול להיות דבר יותר מובן מאליו מאשר לטוס לניו יורק ולבקר את הרבי. והתקשרתי למזכירו של הרבי ומיד התקבלתי בתשובה חיובית וחמימות וקבענו את המועד.
אני שגדלתי בקיבוץ חילוני, במסגרת חילונית, שכל הקשר שלי לדת היה רחוק מזרח ממערב, כשיוסי לוקינר אמר שצריכים להיפגש עם הרבי מלובביץ', אמרתי בסדר, אוקיי, להיפגש איתו, זה לא... שמעתי עליו.
הם היו שוכנים בבית מלון, במנהטן. כמובן שאלה שבאמת נשלחו להביא אותם. כמובן הביאו אותם באוטובוסים מיוחדים, אוטובוסים מושבים, שיוכלו לקשור כל אחד עם העגלה שלו. הם בעצם סמד יוציאו את כל השולחנות מול הבמה של הרבי שהרבי יושב. הם בעצם המשיכו שורות לחיילים הפצועים על כיסא גלגלים.
וכבר כשהתקרבנו, כשירדנו מהאוטובוס, חשנו בהמולה, בהתרגשות הגדולה מסביב. הגענו לאולם גדול, בית הכנסת הגדול, ומסביב היו אלפי בני ישיבה חרדים בהתרגשות גדולה.
כמובן, אני אישית בהתרגשות רבה. הייתה איזו רוח מיוחדת, רוח של קדושה, ויצא הרבי ועלה על הבמה ודיבר אלינו.
אני נתתי את העבודה השנתית ונותרתי בעבודת התקלטית כל ימינו. היה איתנו מתורגמן שעמד לתרגם ביידיש, ולהפתעתנו הרבי דיבר איתנו בעברית, מה שנקרא עברית של ביאליק, במנהל. וראית שעומד מולך איש מאוד מיוחד, מאוד אחר, והמסר שלו היה, אתם חזקים, אתם גיבורים, אתם לא נכים. אם בית שילמד מהשם של ניסים ומישהו שהוא נכי, שזה עומד על משהו נחיסס וירידו, כי אם אדרה בצורך להדגיש בזה, שהוא משהו מיוחד ומצוין על ידי בני אדם שלא שם לב כיחס מיוחדים יסיימים על מה שיש לו לאדם מן השורה, ולכן דווקא ביכולתי להסתכל על קושי ומניעס שאין ביכולת להסתכל עליהם באדם מן השורה. ולכן הייתי מציע שנשאנו השם ויקולו מצוין בישראל.
ישבנו פסומים שם, האזנו לדרשה שלו, ואני כאדם שעסקתי כל חיי בתחום הזה, אני יכול לומר שדברי הרבי היו נר רגליי, ומצאתי אנשים שנפגעו בצורה הכי קשה, עיוורים, משותקים וכן הלאה, ובמעט שנשאר להם, הם הגיעו להישגים הכי גדולים שאדם יכול לתאר לעצמו, שזה דבר שאדם שלא מכיר את התחום הזה וכן הלאה לא יכול להאמין.
וזה הרבי תפס מיד כשהוא ראה אותנו וכשהוא קיבל אותנו.
ובעזרת ההשתתפות של הרבי שקרא לנו מצויני צה"ל, בעקבות זה, עם השנים אני הייתי שותף להקמה של ארגון שנקרא אתגרים, ארגון שמנסה באמצעות ספורט אתגרי, לקחת ילדים עיוורים וקטועים ומחותקים ופגועי נפש, מנטלית, היום אני מביא אותם למאות, לאלפי, אפילו לעשרות אלפי החולים שלי, ובצורה זו אני מצליח לרפא אותם.
מאור פנים של הרב, מאור פנים. תמיד היה מאור פנים של הרב, יהיו באור יקרות ובאמת, אבל בפעם הזאת היה משהו מיוחד ויוצא דופן. שברור שהמלך מגלה אהבה מיוחדת.
בבית הרב הרחבת הגודל שנסתפדת על ידי הביקור שלכם, והיא רוצה שרביס בעומד תצליחו, ועוד שמחו ואהב ויחד בכל מקום שתבקרו, הם בחוץ לארץ ולאחרי זה גם כן בארץ הקודש.
וכשהוא סיים את הדרשה, הרבי ירד אלינו, דבר שאמרו לי שזה דבר שהוא לא מקובל. הוא ירד אלינו, לחץ את ידי כולם, בידי כל המשלחת, הוא לחץ את ידי, זה היה מין חיזיון שקשה לתאר אותו. חשנו שהאיש באמת אוהב אותנו, אוהב את האדם ומעריך את האנשים שתרמו מגופם לשלמותה של מדינת ישראל.
וכל אחד אתה גם במילה, שפרה, דיבור מראה, זה תורם, שהיה כאן, ולא מתרגשים, רצה לתת לכם אותם. היה מתולתת בפעם, פעם חדש, נתן להם את זה. רוצה לראות באיזה טיבה, אבל לא לקח את זה. אי אפשר לתאר בחדר שהרבי חזר למקום שלו, צירף את הכובע הזה לסידור, מחובטים ביחד, אני רוצה לבזמן.
Here we have whenever I see this, I've seen this a few times. It's such a beautiful, because the Rebbe wasn't just trying to make them feel good by saying this. The Rebbe truly believed this. When the Rebbe looked at someone and said, you have a challenge, you have what the world may look at as a handicap, but I look at it as that means you have special abilities and special powers to be able to overcome that a regular person would not be able to handle. So again, this is the extreme. And actually the Rebbe, the past 20 years, 30 years, people called special needs has become the word that's used. The Rebbe spoke about this way before his times. And then in the 60s, when people did not call them special needs, everyone was already saying, we should call them special needs because they have a special neshama. They have a special soul. But this is the way the Rebbe looked at someone. And again, while we may not have this extreme disability, permanent, but everyone has those areas of struggle, those areas of personal flaws. They feel like, if only I didn't have this. And the Rebbe says, let's reframe this. You have that flaw, you have that disability. I want you to look at yourself as exceptional. I want you to be able to look at what you have and recognize that you have this ability to be able to transform this world. You have this ability to be able to spread goodness and positivity. And this is the idea. So just to finish off, we're talking about challenges, whether we're talking about personal challenges, situational challenges, or social challenges. The message the Rebbe says is, take the lama, the why did this happen? Because many times you won't be able to understand the lama. Sometimes we will. Sometimes there's the Gam Zulatova. You can look back, and I'm sure many people have here situations in life. You're able to look back at what was then a challenging situation, and you're able to look back and say, I see the blessing that happened there. I see why this ultimately turned out for the best. But sometimes in life, we won't be able to have that. Sometimes there's a crummy situation, and even if I look back, I can't see the positive. But what we can do is transform the lama into the lama. What is the purpose? What is my mission in life to be able to take this challenging situation and use it out for the positive? And then we're able to live this our life this way. And while it's not going to take away the challenges, and it may not take away the pain, but it will give us purpose in the challenges. It will give us a reason to wake up, a reason that, yes, I know I have these challenges, but yes, I know that ultimately, and I may not like it, but ultimately this is a gift. Ultimately, this is a gift to be able to accomplish something that someone else would not be able to accomplish. And that's why God gave it to me. And this is the idea of challenges, of the way the Rebbe look, the way we're supposed to look at challenges. Finally, next week, we will finish off this course by speaking about holiness and how we're able to increase in our own holiness and the holiness of this world. And thank you very much.
What is the following?